Hello, I'm Dr. Bossing, and I want to welcome you to English 232 American Literature 2, or the really good stuff that's been written for the last 150 years or so. I've got good news and some maybe not so good news. The good news is, for some of you, this may be the last English class you ever have to take in college. Congratulations! And that's coming from someone who was an English major many years ago. The other good news is that we'll be reading literature, which I think is a real gift, maybe because I was an English major, because it's a topic that covers kind of everything. It's history and culture and sociology. It's a way of taking a step back and thinking about some of the bigger questions about our country, about ourselves, about how we work as a community together, or sometimes not so together. I think literature gives us space in the college classroom to not have to focus on some specific content, disciplinary content, and it gives us a chance to be a little bit more cross-disciplinary, right? We can go in a lot of different directions under the umbrella of this big topic of American literature. There's an old saying about history being written by the victors, right? The people who end up on top of historical events are the ones who get to write the story of themselves and their country. I think literature, in an interesting way, is the stories that are written, the voices of the people that are not considered the winners at the time, the people who are marginalized, who are strange, who aren't in positions of power at the time they're writing. And we get to kind of do cultural excavation and look back at those voices and those experiences and see what they might have to say to us, the readers of today, and to kind of carry on a conversation over the decades. I think that's kind of a rare opportunity, and one I want us to dive into right away. That's the good news. The not so good news is this. We have 150 years worth of literature to cover in about 4 months. So we have to kind of like hit the ground running, and there'll be a lot of reading. Probably less writing than some of your other English classes, so that's good, but there'll be a lot of reading. It's pretty reading intensive. I try to keep it within like I try to keep in mind that everybody's got a busy life with work and family and other classes, so I'm not just wanting to swamp you. I try to keep things manageable, but it is probably more reading than some of y'all are used to doing. Here's how I see my role. First, as your professor, right, as someone who's going to guide you through these weekly folders, mostly online, sometimes in class, and to cultivate our small community of readers and writers, so we can interact. Our ideas can get exchanged, and we can come up with ways of thinking about not only the stuff in the textbooks, but just our country, our story that we tell ourselves. And sometimes we can challenge ourselves and end up looking at our country and our culture and our stories in new ways that we hadn't thought about. There's a whole conversation that's been going on for, well, 150 years, but a lot longer than that. And this is our opportunity to kind of jump into that conversation and have our say, figure out how we fit into this ongoing narrative of America. So part of my job is that, to kind of guide you through. Another part is just to be kind of an editor or a DJ and say, let me pick the greatest hits. Let me pick what I think are the most important voices, the things that resonate the most today, even if they've been written decades or a century ago, and try to help that conversation between these writers and ourselves, help that move along. And to help you, right? The other thing this class is you'll be doing some writing, and I see it as an important part of my job to give you feedback, to tell you what you're doing really great when you're writing papers, and to tell you where your skills can get improved, and to give you suggestions on how to do that. I'd love to tell you that you'll never have to write again in a college class after this semester, but you know that's not true, right? Maybe you'll be done with English classes, but you'll be writing for almost all your future classes. They might not be called essays, but they'll be essay exams or lab reports or PowerPoints or emails, whatever. You'll be writing, and your writing will be expected to meet the standards of what academic writing is in college. So I can help you with that for sure. I think that's important. So this is a hybrid class, which means every week you'll be checking in online, going to Blackboard, opening up the new folders for each week. We'll also be meeting occasionally in the classroom, which I'm really excited about. I'm very old school. I have been teaching classes like this one for over 20 years at several colleges and universities. And for me, this class works best in the classroom when we can meet as a group and exchange ideas, where it's not just the old guy and my ideas and opinions and I'm just giving them out to you, that the flow of information's in one direction. To me, that's not so interesting, right? And not the most useful application of our time together. It's much better if this is a group effort or a one-on-one effort between you and me. That's cool too. We'll be doing all of the above because of the hybrid format. The way it'll work is I'll meet half of you one week and then the other half the next week. I've already sent out email about that, and each week I'll send you out an announcement and an email just letting you know which, is it group A or B this week, and what we'll be doing in class. So it's important to keep up with that, right? You're expected to show up for class, but we're also expected to do our work online as well. I've set it up so it's asynchronous instruction, which means we're not meeting online through Teams at a specific time during the week. I think the great advantage of an online format for classes is its flexibility. That as long as you're keeping up with the kind of weekly deadlines, you can decide when to sign in, where to sign in, and do your work. And so I want our instruction to be asynchronous, other than meeting every other week. So hopefully we get the best of both worlds that way. That's my, I hope it works out like that. Because of this strange hybrid format, communication's really important. I'll be sending out announcements and sometimes videos like this, and I'll be seeing you in real life. Yay. Every other week. So it's important to keep up with that. Check your Wake Tech emails. Check Blackboard. Just expect to log in 2 or 3 times a week for sure to keep up with stuff. Whenever you have questions or something I've said in class or online just confuses you, it's probably my fault. Reach out. I've got time set up in the afternoons, Monday through Thursday. I'll be sitting right here waiting to talk to you. Or waiting to respond to your emails. There's no dumb question. The only dumb thing is to have a question or need clarification and not reach out. So I encourage you to let's spend as much time as we can one-on-one together. That's another advantage of this class. Here are the texts. It's the Norton Anthology of American Literature. 3 volumes, C, D, and E. Right? We'll start chronologically, starting with this one. Starting with a couple really important and amazing poets. And I know poetry can be a tough sell, but they're worth our attention, and they're a great way to start off the conversation of this semester. So we're going to start with Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson and just move on from there. So you'll need these anthologies, right? And I know it's like, 3 big books. But that's the class. It's going to be really hard for you to get through it without access to these texts. The other text is a novel that we'll be discussing at the very end, the last couple weeks of the semester. But I encourage you to go ahead and get and read, because it is a novel. It's not the longest novel. It's called Station 11 by the wonderful writer Emily Mandel. This came out a few years ago, was a finalist for the National Book Award, which is a big deal. And it's about what life would be like after a horrible pandemic sweeps through the world and changes society. Go figure. Sounds vaguely familiar. This is a great kind of dystopian book, kind of science fiction, because part of it's set in the future after a terrible pandemic. Part of it's set now. So it kind of jumps back and forth in time, but not in a like make you crazy kind of way. It's not trying to confuse you. And I'll be helping you along the way if it is confusing. So look for this. Maybe the cover will look like that. Either one works. Getting it electronically on your device. You can probably check it out from the public library. They should have some copies. So I encourage you to get a jump start on that. I think it's a great read. It reminds me of the graphic novel and then the television show The Walking Dead, except without the zombies. So I think it's great. I think it talks to our times right now in really interesting ways. So probably less paper writing this semester, but probably a lot more reading this semester, but we can make it work. We have to get to work right now. There's a couple things I'm asking you to do that are in the week 1 folder right below the link to this video. So I'll be seeing some of you next week and the rest of you the week after, and we're just going to jump in and go. So work hard, be kind, especially to yourself in these first couple weeks of the semester when things are a little crazy, and I'll see you soon. All right, take care.